Welcome to the Production Expert Podcast. I'm Ashea, and this week I sit down for virtual lunch with Richard Hilton, producer, engineer, songwriter, and musician who, as many of you may already know, has freaked out a fair bit with Nile Rodgers and Chic, and Steve DeMott, producer, engineer, songwriter, and musician who's worked with Grammy-nominated Tribe Collective, who freaks out the most over compressors and songs with great titles. So go get some lunch or some tea and sit down with us. Also, are you as fickle as William Whitman?
This podcast is sponsored by Genelec. If you've ever been disappointed with the way your mixes sound on other playback systems, then check out Genelec's Unio monitoring ecosystem. By providing a seamless bridge between loudspeaker and headphone monitoring, Unio allows you to quickly create great sounding mixes that translate consistently wherever you choose to work. No more guesswork, no more surprises, just truthful, accurate audio monitoring from stereo to immersive. To find out more, visit genelec.com/Unio, spelt UNIO. Your mixers will thank you for it.
Okay, cool. So shall we get into the idea of working backwards?
Well, I think it was a lot more common at one time, right?
I'm not sure about that because it seemed like the antithesis of creativity to some people. But yes, it's always been available to us. And it works really well when you like that kind of comfort of thinking that you're knowing where you're going and being willing to adjust that to the circumstances as they evolve.
Right. And it's also in some ways freeing as you're going along to make those decisions early and commit, because it then leads you into your next decision rather than waiting to make all your decisions further down the road, because there's only so far you can kick the can before you have to start making decisions.
I'm still trying to figure out how far that is because I've been given sessions with hundreds of tracks, many of which are duplicates of each other, panned left and right.
That's
that's nice.
And this is by famous artists who shall remain nameless for the purposes of this podcast. But I've seen all kinds of things, and I think the kick the can down the road has actually become a lot more common on some level than the working backwards from a vision of where you want to end up.
That's another problem that we've spoken about, the mix engineers being sort of thrown a project from producers or artists that actually isn't fully produced and actually needs organizing. Do you get that a lot?
I do. And not only that, I actually, if I know I'm getting something in, I'll allocate at minimum a period of hours and then probably an entire day to just organizing it into a fashion from which I can work successfully. And that's different for everybody, and that's understandable to me that people work differently. I tend to be kind of anal about the way I lay things out in a session so I can get to things quickly because I'm used to working in situations where the show hide features weren't all that elegant, which is what sort of Pro Tools was and still is to some extent, but not as much. So laying things out in a logical and predictable fashion was a way for me to get around large sessions quickly because you can only get so much on the 15-inch monitors we were using in the beginning. And so that just became a habit of mine. Others are less chained to that sort of thing, and you get stuff willy-nilly all over the session, and I just can't work like that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I tend to like things to be organized, and I put aside time for session prep because I don't want to spend 5 minutes finding that second copy of a track that's running somewhere and I have no idea where it is. So yeah, I do the same thing. It's interesting because more people call themselves producers, but less production is being done. And I find that, sometimes I'm given things to mix and I have to play producer at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting kind of balance because, and sometimes you go back and you're like, well, what's the intention here? What are we going for? And they're like, oh, what do you feel? What do you, and you get those kinds of responses and you're not really sure what the artist was thinking.
See, that opens up a whole can of worms, and I'm not sure whether you want to really go into that today, but the idea of, number one, defining, and I think we did a podcast on this a couple of years ago, but defining what the roles actually mean. So what a mixer is actually supposed to be doing versus a producer, but also that the artist or whoever's giving you the work actually knows what they can expect from you, because it can get complicated down the line as well. Have you experienced complications with that? Or
I definitely have, where, I think for a lot of newer artists too, there's sort of a what happens behind the curtain kind of thing that goes on, where they're not really sure where one job ends and another begins.
Yeah.
And I also find, like, in the studio, when some of the younger artists come in, I'm kind of, I don't want to say surprised, but I would expect them to have a more solidified idea of what they're going for before they book the studio time.
Well, you and I, based on our conversations, grew up preparing ourselves for things musical.
Yeah.
Learning instruments, learning music production in a way that you inject your musicianship into the process and that serves the time you put in alone to become a musician, and that sort of development period that we all spend working on that, or that many of us do. But I think some people come to it from a different angle and need that.
Yeah.
So our role as a producer, as I see it, has to do with creating a successful creative environment, which is a giant subject that I think about a lot, which is what is going to take this combination of people in this space and turn this into something where together we're going to produce something that's greater than any one of us could envision from the start. And that, to me, is the goal of a successful creative space, is creating an environment where something, like I said, bigger than the sum of the parts can occur and surprise us all. So to that extent, somebody who brings in a project that's not entirely complete, let's say, to work on or to mix, is seeking our help in a way that may not be typical of somebody who's just sort of organizing a creative space. You may have to actually become the musician for a minute there.
Right.
You have to feel out how welcome that is.
Exactly. That's a really good point, because I think these days, because of home studios and, we're not so traditional, a lot of people have, it's kind of half an idea. Perhaps they've got a production. I've experienced this before, but it's not fully produced. And it's not quite mixing that you need to do, because there's some arrangement things that need to be done. So you are, like you say, you're sort of, it's, I suppose, in a way, if they allow you, as long as they're not sort of saying, well, no, I only want you to mix and that's your job. But if they do allow you to then take that creative approach as a producer and oversee the project, then maybe you can start, like we said before, starting backwards or from the ground up, but also just working out what they want. What is their vision to begin with? What are we trying to achieve here?
Agreed. Absolutely.
Right. And that's always a conversation that, well, not always, but that becomes a conversation that you have to have a lot of times. I can't tell you how many times it's just, you sit down and you're like, well, tell me about what we're trying to do. And then, you start helping it along. Like Richard was saying, then you start to become a session musician and start helping them build the vision. But I think if you can't get the vision, you're going to have a hard time doing that.
And sometimes asking them directly a question like that isn't going to lead necessarily to the best result, and here's why. It's a little like meeting somebody in the bar and asking them to tell me about yourself. And you're going to learn more about them based on the way they tell you about themselves than you're going to learn from the actual stuff that they tell you.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I get that.
When you sit down with an artist and you ask them who you are and what are you trying to do, they look in there's a voice in the back of their head 50% of the time that's going, uh-oh, because they don't necessarily think like that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily examine their own art or their own selves as artists in that way. So I'm not always sure that asking them is the best thing. But, like, for example,
The Production Expert Podcast is made possible using the new Source Nexus suite from Source Elements, the professional way to collaborate over the internet, along with high-definition, low-latency audio and video. Need to record an interview or a podcast, or collaborate with others for songwriting, review and approval, remote editing, and more. With Source Nexus Suite, using any browser, you'll get studio-quality audio and video, along with custom-built tools for seamless integration with your DAW. Pricing starts at free. Get your account today at sourceelements.com.
Very recently, a really great developing artist from Scotland is about to release an EP, and he wanted my opinion about some things. And he sent me the material to listen to. And I do this often on a consultancy sort of basis. And I wrote a list of bullet points for every song, discussing what I think is important about that song, what I would want to make sure was being heard the most, which you almost always with songs with me is the story.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Assuming there is one. Then you can read my bullet points and look at the way I think about things. It's like teaching a man to fish. You know what I mean? You can show them a way to think about it that they may not have considered. It may not suit them. It may not be suitable to their personality in the way that it is to mine, but at least they get a chance to examine that.
Right.
And that's how I begin to try to create a successful space that we can create together in, because I'll give you what my ideas are relative to this, and now you get a chance to compare them to whatever you thought that you weren't as easily able to enunciate before. And hopefully we come to some kind of a sum that's greater than the whole, whole that's greater than the sum of the parts.
Right. And that's all we can really do, though, is give our take on things, because that's what makes us who we are, right? How we approach any project we work on in the music, what we hear. And that's a great point about the story. I mean, it's for most, being a songwriter, it's, to me, it's always about the story. You're telling the story. And I remember we were talking, this was a while back, we did a songwriting podcast, and one of the things we were talking about is what makes a great song. And my take on it has always been, a good song is a song where you listen to it and you can relate to the story. You're like, yeah, I get that. But a great song is a song where you become part of the story.
Yeah, really like that. That's absolutely true.
By the same token, I can't think of anybody who can tell me what the song Back in Black is about.
No, but it does. That's the thing. It doesn't have to necessarily, I don't know if you agree with me, but we were talking with Andrew Sheps in the last podcast. It's the emotion as well. You can tell a story through emotions. You might not actually be saying anything, but making someone feel a certain way, taking someone on a journey. I know that word's used a lot, but it is kind of a journey in a way.
And sometimes being ambiguous is part of the story.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and the texture should create a context for that kind of thing that you're describing now, where you've got an atmosphere that you're placing them in.
Yes.
From which to perceive this little message that we're trying to deliver.
Right. Not everything has to make sense intellectually, just emotionally.
Definitely.
Because in the end, I think, with all the talk about plugins and settings and gear, it's easy to lose fact of the sight that we are creating art.
Absolutely.
And the goal of that is to make people feel something.
So would you say, both of you, that needs to be at the top? If we're starting backwards, and that's kind of the vision, the story needs to be at the top of the list to work backwards with?
In many cases.
Yeah.
In many cases. Where you have a songwriter, if it's Bob Dylan or, whatever, Bruce Springsteen, then yes. The story is going to be very, very important. For some other kinds of artists, it may have more to do with the texture.
So the story or the texture would be the sort of the main thing that we want to get to.
I would say the emotion. I was like, at the end of the song, what do you want the listener to go away feeling?
Yeah, and it's hard to generalize because it really is like a painting. It's like looking at a finished painting in your mind and thinking about what I have to do to get there. One time I spoke to an ice sculptor who was sculpting the Statue of Liberty out of this giant block of ice. And I said, how do you do that? And he goes, it's easy. You just cut away everything that's not the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's an interesting way of looking at it. It's kind of, how do you do that? But how do you do that in music? Cut away everything that's not the...
But we do that in music, right? We do that with the arrangement and removing things that don't serve the things that are just going to muddy.
Oh, we do, yeah.
I like to think that I can let the music tell me what it needs if I can just get myself out of the way.
Let's get into that. How do you do that?
By getting myself out of the way part?
Yes.
It's like playing a show with Chic. It's a meditative thing.
Okay.
It really is. You have to shut off your brain you have to shut off the voice in your head that's commenting on everything and just try to be in the moment that surrounds you. It's a sort of an extra musical outside the realm of, music production expert kind of mindset thing. I see it as meditative.
Richard, do you songwrite, obviously? Yeah.
Somewhat. Yeah, sometimes.
You play and you come up with sort of musical riffs and things like that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Do you, for example, with a lot of songwriters, myself included, when I'm writing a song, I often come up with the top line first. And it's just sort of, it doesn't make any sense at first. So you just kind of get your, recording device and just kind of go blah, 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 listen back and then make sense of it. In a way, that's kind of, for me, that's how I get out of the way of myself and let the music.
Well, that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
They don't all start like that. Some of them start with a drum groove you found that felt good to you and you thought maybe that would be fun to work with, or somebody brought you a set of chords or whatever, starting from a melody or from a storyline is a fantastic way of going. And some people are very, very successful with that. And other guys, Billy Joel comes to mind, who says, no. I very rarely, I almost always write the music first and then find melody and lyrics to make that melody work.
Yeah.
And I think Paul McCartney famously sung Scrambled Eggs when he first wrote Yesterday.
Scrambled Eggs. Love it.
Scrambled Eggs.
Yep. Brilliant. Steve, how do you get out of the way of yourself?
Similar to what Richard's saying, you try to turn the brain off. For me, I think of it not so much as meditation, but maybe it's the same thing looking at it with different words. I try to step back, listen to what's happening, figure out what I'm feeling, and figure out what I either want to feel more or, what I want to feel less, what's getting in the way of the feeling. So I try to distill it down to the emotion of what's happening in those moments and figure out, is there a way to enhance it, make it clearer? Or in some cases, you're saying, am I switching emotions too fast? I try to look at it from an emotional standpoint of how it's moving me through the arrangement.
This podcast is sponsored by Genelec. If you've ever been disappointed with the way your mixes sound on other playback systems, then check out Genelec's Unio monitoring ecosystem. By providing a seamless bridge between loudspeaker and headphone monitoring, Unio allows you to quickly create great sounding mixes that translate consistently wherever you choose to work. No more guesswork, no more surprises, just truthful, accurate audio monitoring from stereo to immersive. To find out more, visit genelec.com/Unio, spelt UNIO. Your mixers will thank you for it.
Richard, perhaps
yes,
you're eating your lunch at the moment.
Not at all. Just listening.
What are you having for lunch, both of you? Anyway, I was going to ask. What do you usually order?
Oh, when we do our lunches?
Yeah.
It depends where we go. Where were we last time, Richard? Oh, we went to
Ralph's Sandy Hook Cafe.
Yeah, the Sandy Hook Cafe.
The Sandy.
Yeah, his stuff takes 15 minutes to describe. It was a great meal.
It was great. Yeah, I think
Actually, part of the experience is him telling you about it. It's really remarkable.
He was a character, right?
He really is. He's a great guy.
Great guy, yeah.
It's near here. You'll have to come, Ashea. I'll take you there.
Oh, that would be lovely. I've never been to Connecticut. I'm sorry, I was tempted to say Connecticut, but that would be really cringe of me. It's Connecticut, isn't
cringe. It's common. It's not how it's done, but it's common and it's not cringe.
Yeah, here in Connecticut, we say Connecticut.
Connecticut, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. No, of
but
course.
It's funny because we watch a good deal of British TV, and my son was a big fan of Danger Mouse.
Oh, right.
And there was this one scene where, if you don't know Danger Mouse, he's the secret agent mouse
Yeah.
with his sidekick Penfold, who I'm not even sure what Penfold is. He's some small animal. And Penfold was commenting on something. He said, "I'm good." He says, "I'm well. You're not from Connecticut." Because we do say "I'm good" here. It's kind of our thing.
I'm good. Yeah.
I'm good. We're good. It's good. All good. We like to say that.
Yeah, I say that too. Yeah. It's all good. Okay, so where were we? We were talking about the creative space.
And working backwards from a picture of what the finished result would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, I don't know if you agree with this, Richard, but sometimes that picture changes as you're
Always
working on things. It's like, oh, I thought we were going here, but we're going to take a left turn right now.
Because the music will tell you where to go.
Yeah.
Mm.
And sometimes you stumble into the most wonderful things that resets your vision.
Yep. Above and beyond what you could have envisioned when you started, which is exactly what we're going for.
And that's when you know some magic's about to happen.
That's why we do this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the most exciting part, when you don't know where the track's going to finish. You know, you don't know what's going to actually happen.
Right.
But you know
Yeah.
that there's something that's exciting going on, but it's not quite there. I love that part.
Yeah.
And that's the best part of the collaborative process, because
Mm.
when it's just you sitting alone, you tend to be very you.
Mhm.
But when you have other people pushing you to not be you, it helps you think outside how you would normally approach things. I don't know if you find that, Richard, but having other people there to bounce ideas off of and to have their ideas bouncing off of you, it changes the way you think about things and approach them.
This, for me, is one of the most valuable lessons I've learned sitting next to Nile Rodgers for God knows how many years.
Mhm.
He is a really great listener and taught me to listen to everything that people say about this, because you don't know where the idea is going to come from.
Mhm.
And I think I've told you this story before, Steve, but when I'm engineering a project, and if I'm in somebody's studio who works there a lot, the assistant, for example, the assistant engineer, I quite often a task will present. I have to record a horn section, or I have to record a vocal, or I have to set up a drum kit somewhere in the room. And the first thing I'll do is ask them what they would do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. Having worked in a recording studio, I know that when you do, you work with other engineers all the time. And you constant influx of ideas and ways of doing things and ways of looking at things. And I know what I would do. And I can always do that. But I prefer to see them do what they would do, because I might learn something. They might show me something that's better than what I thought. And at the very least, that assistant will be my pal for the rest of the entire project, because not too many people ask them what they would do. They're usually working in a service environment where they're having to provide what people are asking for.
I think it's great. I mean, you can't go wrong asking people what they would do, because you can always disregard it if you don't think it's a good idea. But the best case scenario, and it's usually the case, that you learn something.
Absolutely. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's also part of the successful creative space discussion, is making people feel valuable and well regarded within their space in that process.
Mhm. And comfortable as well.
Yeah. Then they'll give you the best stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want people holding back.
Yeah.
Out of, feeling embarrassed or intimidated. You want to give everybody the ability to let their ideas flow and speak them out. And
you want them holding back to some extent at certain times, but that's part of the job of being an assistant engineer.
Well, for an assistant, yeah. I'm talking about in the collaborative process. You want people not afraid to pitch in.
Yeah, especially if you ask them.
Especially if you're asking them, yeah.
They're trying to feel out their spot in the thing too. So that's the challenge when you're an assistant engineer, is trying to figure out how you're going to support this engineer and that producer the best.
Right. And each session, it's a different paradigm. You're playing a different role depending on what they need from you.
Yeah, it's like any social circumstance, really.
Yeah.
It depends on the people and their vibe and the way they like to respond to other people. Some people are more open, and some people open up at different rates. We all open up kind of at different rates from each other, and you have to service everybody's, and respect everybody's boundaries, but at the same time, make yourself available.
Yeah, a lot of it is reading the room, and that comes up in conversation quite a lot, for good reason.
Yeah, if you're not the artist, then you're there in some role that serves a purpose in this process. Mm-hmm. Even if you are the artist, but the artist sort of gets to decide things on some level because it's their project. Yeah. It's their name going on it.
Yeah. So what else do we have on the list of?
The bit about letting the music tell you where it wants to go next, I think, is really, really key. That if you can actually get to a place where you take shove all your prejudgments aside and just be in the space where it's playing right now with what's happened to it so far, and it'll often tell you what should happen next.
Am I the only one thinking of that lyric from Franklin's Tower right now?
I don't know if I know the lyric.
If you get confused, listen to the music play.
Oh,
there you go.
That sums it up perfectly.
Is that Robert Hunter?
I'm not sure if that was. Yeah, I think that was a Hunter lyric. Yes.
I thought he was their usual lyricist in those days.
Yeah, he did all the ones that I believe that Jerry sang, and then I'm blanking on the other writer that Bobby used to sing.
Yeah. Okay. A brief Grateful Dead diversion.
Very brief.
Yeah.
So, Richard, any more tips on what we were saying?
I can tell you, I don't know if they're tips, but I can tell you things about me. I like not doing the same thing all the time when I'm faced with a task. I like to approach each task as much like a baby as I can. Maybe a baby with some knowledge of the mic closet, but a baby.
So a sense of wonder.
Like, how can what's going to make this work the best right here, right now, in this space, rather than just, same as asking the engineer what he would do. I try not to just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. Like when I record a bass guitar, I'll use that. I do grow to like something when I find it, and I'll use it for a while. But I like switching things up. And on the subject of switching things up.
Obviously, these are quite turbulent times, we could say, considering the most recent news with Native Instruments. But we as creatives, what we are quite good at is adapting and evolving and using our creativity to move forward and evolve. So what do we think about that? What are some tips on how to evolve and adapt to the current times?
Well, I think one of the interesting things that, or at least the paradigm that the digital world has brought, is that plugins are, by and large, relatively inexpensive, right? So trying out something new is not usually, prohibitive. Mm-hmm. And I think it's fun to try out new tools and see, we all have a million 1176 or LA2A emulations, right? But to see the stuff that's coming out that's not trying to be the same old, I think it's fun to try these new tools. And that means there's always something else out there that we could try. And I think having a bunch of these in our toolbox gives us options when one of them disappears.
Mm. So you're actually
provided you don't forget to print your tracks when you're done with a session.
So you're actually for diversifying and having more options, which is a good point, actually, something to think about.
Well, I think in the end, and I don't know if Richard will agree with this, but you can always find a compressor that's going to work for you. You can always find an EQ that'll do what you need to do. Mm-hmm. There was a time you'd be in a studio and they had what they had and you'd use what they had. Mm. And we've gotten very used to just having all of our tools all of the time. And, that's not always, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here. I think it's just, It's not always the best way to approach things, is to have the exact thing that you have to have. And this is kind of dovetailing on what Richard was just saying, is it's great to try a new tool. It's great to try a new technique. It's great to try something different because you never know when it's going to be better than what you were doing.
And you never know when it's not going to be available as well. So you're kind of in the team, don't keep your eggs all in one basket kind of
And
thing.
the way my brain works, I can't anyway. I'm much like Richard. I change my mind. I'm very fickle.
The Production Expert Podcast is made possible using the new Source Nexus suite from Source Elements, the professional way to collaborate over the internet, along with high definition, low latency audio and video. Need to record an interview or a podcast, or collaborate with others for songwriting, review and approval, remote editing, and more. With Source Nexus suite, using any browser, you'll get studio quality audio and video, along with custom built tools for seamless integration with your DAW. Pricing starts at free. Get your account today at sourceelements.com.
Whitman said the same thing. I don't know if it was in a podcast or we were just talking.
Yeah.
But he was saying he's very fickle too. He's just, you like to try new things. And
do you think
sometimes it's like, yeah, I did that yesterday. I'm not doing that today.
Do you know what? I think that's a creative thing. I think we're like, I'm not going to say a little bit ADHD because that's a terrible way of saying it. But I do think we've got shiny object syndrome a lot.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
And I don't know if that helps.
I think we like the experience of new. I think as creative people, we crave the next experience. And for us that are creating, that could mean a different tool.
But I think we need that to create in a way, you know, not necessarily maybe if you're really sort of engineer based and kind of really analytical, then maybe you're sort of more towards, no, this is the tried and tested way of doing things. But I think speaking to a lot of creatives, we often, we're like that. We get distracted with new exciting things. What do you think, Richard? Do you like that?
First of all, I love the fact that Steve's talking about what's fun, because one of my sort of pet subjects right now is in all the analysis we see of things that we read about, whether it's hardware or software or, you know, whatever, techniques or everything else. Everybody's evaluating the specs and the specific technical details of how or what it's doing and all of this. And we all love to understand that stuff. It's just kind of becomes fun for a niche, session at the pub. Everybody's got a pint and we're talking about compressors or whatever. But very rarely do you see in a review whether or not it was fun to use.
That's a good point. I'm trying to think back now to...
Because if it's not fun to use, I don't care. I seriously, and I can't tell you how many I don't care.
Well, you know what's funny, Richard? After you said that at our last lunch, I just wrote a review, and in the end, I talked about whether it was fun or not.
It
stuck with me. I was like, is it fun? I was like, now I have to do this every time.
Oh, congratulations. It is supposed to be fun. Making music is supposed to be fun.
It is. It is. We're the luckiest people in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get to have fun and, hopefully make a living at it.
Yeah, exactly. There's just something so energizing about creating.
That's another thing as well. Is if it's not fun and you're genuinely, if you're not sort of on your 109th version of the mix, then it starts to get a bit tedious. But if you're just genuinely writing a song and jamming in the studio, if it's not fun, then that's probably a sign to maybe move on to another idea. I don't know what you
or another vocation.
That too.
I wanted to get to the other part of your question about putting your eggs in how many baskets. First of all, I've been doing this a really long time. I'm the oldest guy in the room here. So I've got tons of plugins that go back, 25, 30 years. Some of these companies I tested for in the 90s and stuff. A lot of these people are my friends who write these things. And I like using my friends' stuff because that just feels good to me and it's fun. So, what is now Sound Toys and used to be Wave Mechanics in the 90s, those people are my friends. I love them. They're great guys, been very, very kind to me. But besides that, they make the best damn stuff of the stuff they make, of those things. They make wonderful stuff. So I like using them. Colin McDowell's been a friend of mine for years and years and years and years. So do I use a lot of McDSP? Yes.
Good.
I've used a lot of Isotope. I used Waves at one time. I depended very heavily on Waves at one time. These days, I'm completely immersed in Softtube's Console 1 technology. And that's all about having fun to me. It's so much more fun working on any kind of mixing with Console 1 channel in front of me and running, they have wonderful software emulations of consoles. I've got tons of other emulations of consoles, but grabbing these knobs and working that way and making your own channel strips to suit the task at hand and stuff like that, this is a lot of fun to me. And right now, at my age, I like to feel inspired by the environment I'm working in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been very deeply into Softtube, just like I've been very deeply into MPE-based instruments now for about 8 or 10 years, and I play Rolly Seaboard a lot. Things that really just kind of encourage me to grow as an artist are things that I really embrace, and I really enjoy them. And this feeds in a corollary way. It's one other thing I like to say quite a bit, which is it's not what you use that makes it what it is. It's who you are that makes it what it is.
Mm.
And we can talk all day about which compressor we like better, but you put that compressor in 3 people's hands, like say the 3 of us in this room, and we're all going to get different results, and they might all be great results.
It's about perspective. It's about the...
Well, it's how it represents you as your vision and your personality and the thing, your tastes and the whole way you look at the world. And I know it sounds all kind of really weird and deep and ethereal, but I really think that it's who you are that makes it what it is. And these are just tools. When the house is built, nobody asks which hammer you used.
I love that. That's such
right?
a great, I mean, that's a really good point. And I do think that I've heard someone refer to that in terms of movie scripts or movie directors. You could give 3 movie directors the same script and they would produce completely different movies because it's their it's their vision that's important. What makes a movie? It's not the script. It's not the tools, like you're saying. So, yeah, that's a really good point.
And they might be 3 great movies.
Yeah.
It doesn't preclude the idea that there could be more than one great way of doing this. And as you hang around like a lot of really, really great engineers, in my case, where I'm not the engineer on the session, but I'm serving in some other production function, and you watch people and they all have different ways of doing things, and it sounds great because it's them. If I tried to do that, it wouldn't work at all. I look at it and I go, I would never put a microphone there, but it sounds great when they do it.
Yeah. So we can't just take tips from other people and just plonk it onto our own thing and expect it to work.
Well, just like being a musician, you have to find your own voice.
Right. Yeah,
you have to find your own ethos, and that picture you're painting for what the end should look like is going to be uniquely yours.
Right, because you're going to coalesce all the things that inspire you into what is uniquely you.
Hopefully.
On
a good day.
On a good day.
If the tea is right.
If the tea is right.
If we get the right tea
and the right
real
milk. And real milk. Exactly.
I wrote a song called Real Milk in 1977.
Right. I've got to listen to that.
It was a jazzy instrumental thing that had a drum break with a hole in it. And when the hole, everybody would yell, "Real milk!"
Was that inspired by a bad studio session?
It was inspired by the fact that not just studio sessions, but restaurants would bring you these little white cups of something white that had nothing to do with a dairy product.
Right. That's so
But
annoying.
it looked like a dairy product, and it supposedly acted like a dairy product when you poured it into your coffee, which we more commonly drink here. And so I decided to write a song called Real Milk. It was very jazzy, but it was...
I got to look that up now.
I've got to listen to that. That sounds brilliant.
I hereby dedicate it to you, Ashea.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Yes, I'm sure. My new favorite song, no doubt.
That you've never heard.
I'll play it every time I need some good tea.
What's your favorite song? It's a song I've never heard before.
No, but I already like the title, so there we go.
Well, I mean, that's important. I've skipped songs that I didn't like the title.
Really?
I'm such
so you're fickle.
a lyric-oriented guy.
Yeah.
So when Nick Lowe walked in the room and said, "What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding?" What did you say?
But I mean, a title has to grab me, and I'm not going to take us down another tangent here, but a title has to grab me because I need to emote with the title first.
See, I don't particularly care as long as I'm really hot on rhythm. Like they could be speaking in like alien language for all I care, and as long as the rhythm's good and the melody, obviously, then I'm happy.
Have you ever heard Magma?
Magma. So,
the French band.
How does it go?
French band from the 70s and 80s.
How does it go?
I couldn't possibly sing it to you, but to give you an idea about guys who are not as interested as you and I in the story, they wrote material in a language of their own creation.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Ooh.
I think I have heard of it, actually.
But it's very rhythmically presented, and it's almost like Philip Glass style interweaving of things over a sort of a fusion jazz bottom.
Oh, nice.
Is the best way I could describe
Nice.
it. But it has very, very rhythmic vocal parts and other parts too. It's the drummer is sort of the band leader.
Ah, I'm going to look that up as well. Magma.
So you might like that.
Nice. Does anyone want to add anything else, or should we just go to Find of the Week?
Nothing to add.
Yeah, no, I think we're good.
Good. Cool. So what's your Find of the Week? Richard. Let's go with Richard.
Yeah.
It's still my Oura ring that I got recently.
Okay.
Which is something you wear on your finger that does a lot of analysis of your biological life and presents it to you on an app.
Nice.
Quite often in real time. And it's, I think, for somebody who is my age and doing what I do, I think it's a really great thing to have on and to be looking at and to be monitoring. And I'm really trying to, I like what I do. I love my life and I want to keep doing it.
Oh, that's lovely.
And in order to do that, I have to be diligent about my lifestyle and about my health. And so this is, it's my find of the month, really. And it's been a really instructive thing to have it. So it's not an audio product this time.
No, but it's probably more important than any product because it's to do with your
Taking
health.
care of the body is important.
Yes, very. Yeah, great find. Steve, what's your find?
So mine is a plugin by Metric Halo Make Believe Studios called Meld.
Meld.
It's primarily marketed for immersive Atmos mixing, but it's really, you could use it in a stereo mix. It's basically, to explain what it is simply is difficult. Everyone should just go check it out, get the demo. But what it does is it overcomes some of the problems in Atmos. Mainly, most compressors aren't 714 aware. What this does to get around that is really, really brilliant, because you can put Meld on every channel and then group certain channels together, and it'll act as if they are bused together. If you want it to, you don't have to sidechain everything into it like a bus, but you can. And that way you can get EQ, compression, loudness normalization, saturation on all your different buses without having to worry about whether your plugins support, 714 or 514 or whatever you're using.
Just looking at it now.
And in typical fashion for them, it sounds incredible. The EQ is just unbelievably open and musical.
Nice. And I'm just looking at the website, and it's been used on quite a lot of albums so far. And Doja Cat, Lady Gaga. Fantastic. Have you tried it, Richard? Have you tried this one?
I haven't. But I do know that my friends who like Metric Halo stuff love their Metric Halo stuff always and forever. And I did meet Stu Buckhalter at one point, and he's a very, very nice man. And I really admire what he's done and what they've created.
Fantastic. Well, that was indeed fun. So thank you very much to Richard and Steve. And we'll be back next week with part 1 of a luxurious episode of Lord of the Strings. Can you guess who our 2 guests might be? If you think you can, message us at Production Expert on Facebook, Instagram or LinkedIn. And if you guess it right, you'll get a little shout out and round of applause from us. And who doesn't love those?